Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talk About Houses. I'm Todd.
I'm Juana.
We're going to talk about this article came out in the New York Times. Home sales on track for slowest year since housing bust. Residential real estate market hindered by mortgage rates, limited inventory. And talk about why this is likely what's going to stop housing from crashing and actually make home prices go up.
Right. So everybody's heard that the housing market is frozen because of the high interest rates. Sellers don't want to put their house on the market because if they go out to buy something, they have to pay a lot more interest, and that's just unpalatable to them at this point. So that's causing the freeze in as far as not getting new homes on the market. If there are not new homes on the market, then buyers who don't already own homes don't have the possibility of purchasing homes. So what do they have to do? They have to live somewhere, as I always say. So where are they going to live? They're going to rent. So the more people you're putting out in the rental market, the tighter the rental market becomes, right? So what happens when there are more tenants than there are homes for rent? Rents go up.
Okay, that was a very long intro. But first, let's talk about Juana's fantastic Cuban dress
Yes.
that you got in Miami.
Miami.
We were in Miami. We spoke at a national conference.
Mm-hmm.
It was very fantastic. I was on a panel with Redfin and Realtor.com. So it was very good. But that's not the trip you got that dress.
No.
You got that on a different dress.
Yes. I got this trip on a previous Miami trip. But yes, we love Miami. Miami's beautiful. Beautiful beaches, beautiful hotels, wonderful restaurants, great music, very nice people, and apparently extremely hungry mosquitoes.
A lot of mosquitoes.
And they seem to have an affinity for me.
Okay, we're going to start with the chart. Now let's do this chart here. This chart is the existing home sales and median prices. Okay, this is how the chart works. The height of the bar is the number of sales. And if you look on the left, that's the number of millions of homes sold per year, right? The darkness of the chart is the home prices. So you can see from left to right, for the most part, the home prices get darker, except for the little 3 bars where they went from kind of medium to light. That was the housing market crash, right? And then we had a very artificially low number of sales which was 08, 9, 10, 11. That was the crash. Now remember, the housing crash actually started in 2006. We were doing REO by the end of 2000. We were selling bank-owned home foreclosures by the end of 2006. It didn't become a big deal till 8 or 9, but home prices already tanked by then.
Right.
Okay. Juana, on this chart, there's something I think that's very interesting. Now, first of all, the very last bar on the right is 2023. And this data only goes through August. So there's still 4 more months. So you could assume that this is going to get back up to it's going to be like maybe 4 million. It might hit 4 million, it might not. But if you look back at the last time it was 4 million, 2008, we'd already had 2 years of price declines.
Right.
Okay. But we have the opposite now. We have price increases. What do you think is different now than then?
A lot of things.
Okay.
Okay, so first of all, we have more homes that are free and clear. Back then, about 16% of homes were free and clear. Now we have 42% of homes free and clear. Next, most homes that do have mortgages have sub 5% interest rates. That wasn't the case back then.
How many homes in 2008 had a sub 5% interest rate?
Very few, if any. And if they did, they had the variable rate interest and it was going to adjust. So.
Nobody had a sub 5% rate.
Right.
From a loan that they'd originated in the last 20, 30 years.
Right.
Yep.
So, yes. And then, the other thing that is different, of course, is people have equity. People didn't have equity then, which means that they did not have anything to lose by letting the homes go. People have a lot of equity in their homes now, so there's no reason for them to allow a foreclosure. If they do experience some sort of a financial difficulty where they need to sell the house, they can sell the house and they can put money in their pocket. That wasn't the case then.
Okay. I've got this spread chart I'm going to show you.
Okay.
This is how much equity people have as a percentage of household real estate. If you look back at the housing crash, people didn't have equity. They were buying loans at 100% at super high interest rates with no equity, and then they were just walking on the loans, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody's doing that today. Nobody's walking on loans. The reason they're not walking on loans is because we have 71% of all homes are equity, mm-hmm. and only 29% have loans. So think about this. If you look all the way to the right, that 71 is 71%. It's a percent. So here's the value of the house, total value. 71% is equity, only 29% is loan. And that loan is financed at the lowest amount ever in the history of housing. Mm-hmm. Basically 2, 3, 4%. It's super low interest rates. So these people don't have much debt. They have debt at a very low interest rate, which means they have a very low payment. Now, the conventional wisdom one is, but the people buying, they're the ones that it's very difficult for, and housing has to crash for them to be able to buy a house. That's literally the only argument right now, is that the sellers have to just give away their house so I can afford it at a 7.5% interest rate, because I can't afford it at a 7.5% interest rate.
No. I mean, short answer, no. When was the last time that you walked into a restaurant saying, I can't afford to pay whatever it is for this Wagyu steak, so you're going to have to lower your price? What does the restaurateur tell you? Go down the street to a different restaurant, because you're not going to, we're not going to sell you this $150 steak for $20. That's not happening. So it's the same thing with this. I mean, look, if you can't have the $120 steak, you're going to have to do the $20 burger. If you can't buy the $5 million house, you're going to have to buy something you can afford, whatever that is. So that doesn't mean you can't buy anything at all. It just means that you can't buy that more expensive home. There are still more buyers chasing the limited number of inventory that we have. So the buyers that are shut out are the people at the bottom. The next level up simply have to adjust their sights, and so does everybody else who needs financing and are limited by the amount that they can put down in a down payment and can afford their monthly payment. If you have limitations, you're going to have to adjust your sights to something that you can afford. That's it. But it doesn't mean that you can't buy. It just means that what you can buy is maybe not necessarily what you wanted. What is it? What's the old saying? Champagne tastes and beer budgets. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Sales of previously owned homes in 2023 are expected to dwindle to a rate not seen since at least 2011, when the U.S. population was smaller and the country was still recovering from one of the worst housing crises ever, according to economic forecasts. That's a big point there. The country was smaller. I'll give you an example. In Las Vegas in 2006, the peak of inventory, where we actually had a bubble. We called it on the Talk About Houses radio show. 2006, we had 26,000 houses sitting in the MLS. About half of those were in Vegas, about 13,000 in Vegas. The rest were Henderson, North Las Vegas, right? Currently in the MLS today in Vegas, we have for sale 2,400 houses, 2,400. So we have about a sixth of the number of houses, available. It's the anti-bubble. Mm-hmm. It's the non-bubble.
Right.
Right? Here's a quote from the article. This was a quote from, don't remember who it was. We're in for a fairly prolonged freeze, she said. This year's housing slowdown is very different from the previous one. After the housing bubble of early 2000s burst, back then the economy entered deep recession. Millions of people lost their homes to foreclosure. We have the lowest number of seriously delinquent mortgages right now ever.
Right. So 2 points. One, that was Redfin's chief economist, and two, I think it's misstating when it says that people lost their home to foreclosure. They didn't. A lot of them did not lose their home to foreclosure. A lot of them did a strategic default. So that means that they owed $300,000 on the house. It was worth $160,000. And they said, you know what? Goodbye. I'm okay with that. I don't have to make mortgage payments for months or maybe years before the bank forecloses on it. I'm okay with that. I will suck up the bad credit because it's worth it to me to not pay $300,000 for an asset that's worth $160,000. That's not losing your home to foreclosure. That's a strategic default, and that is a substantial paradigm shift. Understand these people, that not everybody was a victim. Yes, there were victims, and I don't dispute that. But a large number of people were not victims. This was a financial decision they made because the asset in which they invested lost a substantial amount of value, and they did not want to throw good money after bad. So that does need to be pointed out.
Okay, this chart here, mortgage rates, they put this in the article. Whoever put this chart together has a master's degree in putting charts together. Okay, first of all, they put the bottom at 2, not at 0, to make it look like the interest rates have gone up like 10 times. Like when you look at that, it looks like, wow, interest rates are like 8 to 10 times higher than they were just a couple years ago. No, it's misleading because you can't see the 0 and the 1 below it. So first of all, that is another thing. The other thing is they only go back to 2000, because if they went back to 1980, then this would look like nothing because interest rates were almost triple what they are now. So I thought it was interesting. I saw the chart. The chart's pretty self-explanatory, and we've known this data for a long time. I have a different theory, though. We're going to talk about it as we go through some of these about what's going on. And if my theory's right, and my theory is based on me talking to people that with their homes, okay, homeowners, okay. If my theory's right, then it's going to be very bad for people who have already not purchased a house. Okay?
Right.
Okay, let's go through the first quote here. The shrinking housing market will likely send ripples through the whole economy. Okay, it could force some wannabe homeowners to keep renting. A rise in rent helped push up U.S. consumer price September, could make it harder for the Federal Reserve to end interest rate increase if rents keep increasing. Rents are still going up, not in all markets. They've leveled off in Vegas. They're down in Austin. I think they're down in Boise. But most of the country, 76% or something, still have rents climbing. We still have households being formed.
Right.
And households are being formed at greater than 2 times the number of new homes that are being built.
Correct.
So either people have to buy the new home that's being built, buy a resale home, or they have to rent. Supply and demand. We have a number of houses that are rentals in the U.S., and we have an even faster growing number of tenants because they can't buy because interest rates are too high. I'll just go rent.
So people are going to have to rent, and there won't be enough houses for everybody to rent, and maybe not for everybody in every price point. So people will also end up in apartments. I mean, it's not that people will not find somewhere to rent. It's that they may not find what they would like to rent, or they will pay a different amount than what they would like to pay in rent. That's really what the bottom line is. We do have enough doors, right? It's just a matter of finding the right one for the right person.
Affordability is likely to remain a problem because while mortgage rates are rising, prices aren't falling. Okay, that was the major crash bro last June. They all were like frothing at the housing market was going to crash 50%, 40 to 50% within a year, every single video. You can go back and watch the videos. Man, were they wrong. They actually have gone up. Okay, homeowners who purchase or refinance when mortgage rates were low are unwilling to move. I don't think that's right, but I'll explain that later. Keeping the supply of homes for sale far below historically normal levels. I don't think that they're unwilling to move on it. And
Right.
I've got one more quote, and then we'll talk about my theory. Okay? Do you have any comment on that about
No,
affordability?
I'm looking forward to hearing about the people who are unwilling to move.
Okay, definitely inventory seems really limited, he said. We found the longer we're waiting, interest rates have kept going up and home prices have kept increasing, so it's getting harder and harder. This was a quote from a buyer who decided to stop his purchasing because what happened was he was thinking about buying in like the fall of 2022, but he said, well, home prices will keep going down and I'll just wait. And home prices, only remember, they dropped a little from June, just a couple percent, but then they took off again, started going back up. And then interest rates went up too. So all those people who should have bought last fall, like we said a year ago, didn't do it have they have a double whammy. They have higher prices, they have higher interest rates. So they're like, I'll just keep renting, but rents are going up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? All right, here's my theory. I don't believe that people are unwilling to move.
Okay.
And I don't think we need interest rates to drop for them to like sell and move somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the problem. I think they're satisfied that they have literally bought an asset at such a cheap rate, they're never going to extinguish that loan. Okay? Why would you extinguish a 2.75% loan on a house? If you bought a house for $500,000 and you put $100,000 down and you had a $400,000 payment, but it was only or $400,000 loan, but it was only 2.75%, your payment's still less than you can rent the house for, right? Mm-hmm. Now let's say you inherit $1 million. You're probably like, oh, I'm going to use $400,000 to pay off that loan. Mm-hmm. Want it? Would you do that?
No.
Oh, why not? What else could you do with $1 million right now? I
can invest it.
Okay, give me one investment, risk-free, that would pay you more than 2.75%. Because that's the trade-off, right? That's for you the risk-free rate, because anything over 2.75%, why would you pay off a 2.75% debt when you could get more? So what would give you that right now?
How about a money market? Money markets are paying 5%.
Money market risk-free 5%.
Right.
You could also buy government bonds that are paying more than 5%. There's risk in that, right? Because if interest rates keep going up, then you're still getting the 5%.
Right.
But in theory, what you would do is you invest $1 million in something paying 5-6% risk-free. Mm-hmm. The money you get from it would not only pay your mortgage, it would also put money in your bank, and your principal would never be reduced. Mm-hmm. It would be the best thing. The worst thing you could do is, if you inherited a bunch of money, is to pay off your extremely low interest rate loan right now.
Right.
It was different when rates were 5% and the money market paid 0.5% or maybe 1%. Mm-hmm. That was a different thing, right? You didn't want to put your money in the money market.
Nope.
So I believe that I don't think there are going to be a bunch of homes come on the market. I think this record low number of sales that you saw in that chart, I think it's going to be at least 5 years. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to take 5 years. And this is why I'm telling you this. Anecdotally, everyone I'm talking to is telling me, I want to move, but I'm not going to get rid of the super low loan because I can never borrow money. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go somewhere and maybe buy or rent. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to take this house out. I'm going to rent the house out that I have, because the difference in what I'm paying in rent and mortgage and rent is money in my pocket. I did not hear that a lot in 2003, 4, and 5 when we were selling a ton of houses, where people would come to us, they would sell their house and then go buy something. We were doing all the listings for them, right? They were all selling the house.
Right.
Today, nobody's selling the house, and I don't believe they're going to wait for if interest rates go to 3% necessarily. Interest rates would have to go below 3% for them to decide to sell the house.
Right. It would have to make sense. And for them, it doesn't make sense right now. And to that point, because of their low interest rates, then we can assume that they've got pretty low payments. So they're probably able to save some money for a down payment for their next property, so that they don't have to break into this piggy bank that they have sitting at 3%.
I'm going to put the chart back up here so all the people can see it. It looks like 5 million is the median number. A little over 5, probably 5.5, somewhere between 5.5 million homes. We're not going to break 4 this year. How many years do you think it'll take to get back to 5 million homes? We sold exactly 5 million in 2022. And remember, interest rates went from 3% to 7.2% that year.
Right, but 22, it was an anomaly year too, right? There was a lot of frenzy to sell homes because people could see that the interest rates were going up, and so they wanted to cash out. There were a lot of people willing to buy for the same reason. So there were a lot more transactions in 22 than would have been naturally had there not been this clear indication that interest rates were going up. So I think that's something to kind of keep in mind. And to answer your question, when are we going to see a substantial, because you're asking about a 20% increase in transactions over what we have in 2023.
Yep.
I think that's going to take a while. I think it's going to take longer than people think. I don't think we're going to see it in 2024. I think we'll get closer in 2025, and I think we might get there maybe 2026. And part of that is also because builders are not building enough to contribute to the number of transactions.
I think the same. I think it takes us 3 years to get back to 5 million houses sold. Until then, though, until we can start selling 5.5 million houses a year, we're going to have limited inventory. We'll have more people trying to buy, regardless of what interest rates are doing. There's really no way housing can crash unless we get a ton of houses come on the market that would cause people to start dropping prices to sell.
Right. I mean, and we understand that there are black swan events and that can happen that we can't even imagine at this point. And we're not considering those. We're simply considering all other things remaining as they are, and just normal economic cycles. That's what we're anticipating. Now, something crazy happens, all bets are off, right? None of us expected to spend, a couple years living in our pajamas, and yet that happened.
Black swan event could also cause the opposite to happen. It could cause real, incredible inflation that persists. Mm-hmm. It could cause people to be like, hey, my house is increasing in value. The rents I'm getting from are increasing in value. Now there's no way I'm selling them,
right? Because
I don't want to turn this into cash that's not going to beat inflation.
Right. So long as things remain relatively stable, that's kind of what we're seeing in the future. What do you think? What do you think is going to happen for the rest of this year, next year? I know next year is an election year. Lots of possibilities, right? That's what elections represent. They represent possibilities and hope. So lots of interesting things that could happen with the economy. Let us know in the comments your real estate predictions. We like reading your comments. We appreciate your real estate comments. Please remember to like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share the video, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye.